this is a meeting of the Milford Finance Committee. It's Wednesday, June 11th. Agenda items, the first thing is the review of the prior minutes, which I believe have been circulated. Any comments or motions?
Motion to accept.
Motion by Al to accept the prior minutes.
Second.
Seconded by Bill. We have folks on Zoom, so roll call. Dave?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ash?
Yes.
Brant? Lauren?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Thank you, Bob. Jerry? Okay, we'll treat that as unanimous with an abstention by Jerry. Invitation to speak? Nobody. Okay. The next agenda item was supposed to be a preliminary discussion about the high school project with Jonathan Bruce, who is the chair of the school building committee. Unfortunately, Jonathan is out of town and could not make it, so we are going to move that discussion to our September meeting. Next item up is the Godfrey Brook project. Scott Crisafulli, would you like to join us?
Absolutely, thank you.
Let me see here.
Just hold for a second while Carly joins us. It's okay. Okay, Scott, the floor is yours.
All right, so we're here asking for some extra funding for the Godfrey Brook project, FEMA Hazard Mitigation Project grant we got back in '21.
So let's go back in time. So 2021, we were endeavoring to do what? What was the agenda?
So the project is to rebuild the brook from West Street to Water Street.
Okay.
The culverts have all been done, but the brook itself hasn't been done, so we got a grant from FEMA, Hazard Mitigation Grant it's called, to rebuild the brook.
Okay, so let's go through the timeline. So in 2021,
Well, monsieur, where?
We're
Say West Street to Water Street.
West Street to Water Street.
Where on West Street, where on Water Street?
So basically, where the new culvert ends on West Street, all the way through Church Street, there's a new culvert at Church Street, so the other side of Church Street to Water Street.
Like by the old phone company?
Yep, right through there.
okay, so this was in 2021. Did we get the grant approved in 2021?
Yeah, so we got a grant, we won the grant in 2021. The initial project cost was $977,900. That was the original engineer's estimate in 2020, it was probably 2019 when we did the actual application, so.
So let me stop there. One of the documents that was circulated to us earlier is a letter from the state, August 12, 2021, approving a mitigation funding. It says approving an award of $733,425, and it says, and will be reimbursed up to 75% of approved, allowable, and eligible costs. So I guess my first question is, was the 733 a cap, or was that the 75% based upon the initial estimate of the job of 977?
Right, that's the 75% based on the initial 977,900.
Okay. All right, so then what happened?
So time went by, design was happening, permitting, and finally ready to put it out to bid. The end of 2024. Before we put it out to bid, about a year in advance, I asked for an updated estimate because all our construction pricing since COVID has been going through the roof, so we figured we better get an update. So then we got an updated estimate of 2.11 million. 2 point 11 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 $2,051,700 was our new estimate in '24, January '24.
Okay, so in 3 years, it went from 977 to 2,051,051.
Yes.
And so what's been happening for the last 18 months?
So, again, it was a lot of permitting. Permitting was just tying us up with Army Corps and EPA and DEP. It was long.
So if we still had all this permitting to do, why were you getting updated bid estimates?
Because we were getting ready to put it out to bid, basically. We were hoping to get it out within a few months, but it kept carrying on and on and on. So finally, the end of 2024, we finally got it out, got it ready for bid.
Meaning all the permits and other conditions have been satisfied?
Everything was finalized, yes, by March. It was totally finalized.
March of '25?
Yes. A lot longer than we expected, and we've done a lot of these grants, and it's never taken that long. This is just unusual. A lot of different things.
Okay, so
happening.
March 2025, you then start soliciting bids.
Yep.
And I assume everybody's got this piece of paper that I'm looking at that says your lowest bid now is $2,142,000. Am I getting that right?
I got $2,149,555. Approximately, yeah, it's right in
We
there.
went up
It's
another
very close.
$7,000 since.
Well, no, it might be that. This is just squared off numbers. They're just
Okay.
rounded off numbers, so.
So 2 million, let's go through the math and then we can talk about the operations. So 2,149,000 is the latest bid, or latest? 'cause I
That's
guess
our low bid once we put it out to bid.
That's a firm low bid, whereas before you were getting bids that really weren't tied to any,
We were just getting estimates.
you're getting estimates, okay. And then I've got something here, additional for engineer, 19,000, is that on top of that?
I'm not sure what that is.
I don't know who prepared this sheet, but it had the low bidder amount of $2,142,000. You say it's now $2,149,000. And then someone had put an estimate in for an engineer for an additional
I'm
$19,000.
not sure what that is.
You don't think that's a necessary line item?
I don't know what it is for. I didn't put it in there.
Okay, are you the final say on these numbers?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so then we'll go with your numbers. So you're saying it's $2,149,000?
That's where we're at right now, yes.
Okay, so that's what we would need. Now let's talk about what we've got.
Okay, so I will start from the beginning with this also. So October town meeting, 2021.
21.
I went to town meeting and asked for $244,475. That brought us to the $977,960. That included the 10% contingency. I'm sorry, 900, not 960. But that included the 10% contingency at the time.
And that was approved, and that money is sitting somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. So you've got 977 somewhere between the grant and the previously approved town
Right.
meeting funds?
Right.
Okay.
I then went to town meeting 5/24, so the annual town meeting in '24, and asked for $838,514. Now, that was going to be added together with our stormwater brook fund that we had. That was $261,000. So that brought us to $1.1 million at that town meeting.
In addition,
Yes.
Wait a
so
minute.
you're at $2 million total.
Well, that brought what we raised at that town meeting was 1.1 million total.
And break that number off for me again. In May of '24, town meeting approved $1,100,000?
Yes, basically,
And that's
yes.
composed of two numbers?
Yeah, one was a stormwater brook fund we had, which we combined. That was another article from a past town meeting that we combined.
And how much is that?
$261,486.
Okay, is that under your jurisdiction?
Yes.
Okay, and what's the other piece?
The $838,000 was the actual
For the mitigation.
cash amount we asked for.
Okay. Now, is that money sitting somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah, all that stuff is in a balance sheet account, in a fund.
Okay, it's no longer general fund?
No.
Okay.
That's from those articles that
You see the
Brownie
sheet?
closes out.
Yeah.
This one just has never been closed
Right, so
out.
we asked for a sum of money and we asked for a transfer of some money.
Okay, so you had 977, you added 838. I assume we're keeping the stormwater on the side for the moment? Is that accurate or no?
What's that?
When we're doing this math, are we keeping the 261,000, the stormwater
Yeah,
on
it's
the
all
side?
part
for
of
the
it,
moment?
yes.
Well, when you say it's
Oh,
all
it's all
part of it.
part.
It's in the total.
It's in the total,
Yeah, that-
I mean, yes.
So that was intended to be used for this
Yes.
mitigation project?
Yep.
Okay.
So does that bring us to $2 million?
That brings us to
2077?
I think it's more than that, isn't it?
Well, 977 plus 1,100,000 would be 2,077,000.
Yes, right, 2,077,000, right.
Okay. So that would make us about 72,000 short, approximately.
Right, it also leaves us without a contingency, which is our biggest worry.
So 72,000 plus a contingency absence.
Right.
So that's the problem, and that's why you're here.
Yes.
Okay, so the thing that's troubling me, and trying to figure out how we solve this problem here and in the future is, if they would cover 75%, is there a way to defer giving them a number until we have a bid that we can rely upon? I mean, it seems crazy to me that they're telling us in a letter that they'll cover up to 75%, where in actuality, they're going to be covering about 40%.
Now, yes. Well,
Right?
it
That's
depends.
a $500,000 swing.
It depends on the type of grant from FEMA. Right now, because of whatever's going on with FEMA, they're not even guaranteed, if we don't take this money now, we're not going to have it's gone, because they can't guarantee it anymore. There's no way of knowing if they're even going to have that, the 700,000, whatever it was,
But you have to commit, in calculating the 75%, you have to commit with them to a job cost, even though you think you're years away from getting permits, et cetera?
Again, this has never worked, honestly, Andy. We've done a lot of hazard mitigation grants. We've never had one that took 5 years, 4 years of work to get there. It's never happened. It's usually a year and a half, 2 years, and we're in construction, and we don't have this issue. We've had a similar issue with our last one, where we had to raise some more funding. That was a big deal. But again, that was because of the scope of the project got bigger and bigger as we got deeper into it. Unfortunately, they give us a few months to apply for these grants, a few months. So you have to scramble without actually knowing every square inch of it. So we have to rely on the engineers to do that. And typically they do.
And
But
when you give a number, this is a state grant or a federal grant?
federal.
When you give a number to the feds, can you put an inflation cost indicator in there? If
You have to have the backing. So you have to justify your numbers, And
Would a contractor say, yeah, we'll put a 10% estimate in here for, plus the amount of, I mean, it just seems like we're leaving a lot of money on the table. I'm trying to figure out how we solve that.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, because we can't put it out to bid without actually having the money. And even if we put it out to bid before we got the grant, it's still 5 years later. You know what I'm saying? It's still going to be, or 4 years later, it's still going to be a problem.
Is it just me? Does this seem kind of wacky, the way this whole
It is
system
tough.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a
Go ahead, Dave.
question? So, the original bid was like 940,000, you said, like 4 years ago?
The original estimate was 977,900.
So the original, okay, so it went up 2 times almost since, that doesn't seem
Oh, it is.
plausible. So the question
Absolutely.
is, and I understand it is what it is now, but did anybody do, is it for the same work?
Yeah.
So did anybody do a comparison bids between like what caused the $1.3 million, whatever that number is? Like what is causing this $1.3 million difference? I mean, is it?
Inflation. I'm sorry to say.
It's not 200%.
Well, but 5 to 6.
It's not 200%, I don't think.
It's a 5 to 6 year differential, and it's a little over 100% increase in cost. Yeah, that's a lot more than the inflation numbers you get from the federal government, but given what we've seen in a lot of our other
Central
capital
Street.
projects,
Central Street.
Yeah, but I just didn't know if someone like vetted the numbers just to say, okay, this is where we are today, this is where we were, this is the difference, what caused the difference, other than to say inflation. I mean, is there any pushback on these contractors?
Some of
See if
it-
you can do
some of
some
it's-
kind of value engineering?
When you like, for instance, I'll give you an example. So the Army Corps of Engineers was the last one to sign off, and this was like a month ago. They signed off on this. There is a new, a bat that we have in this area that's endangered all of a sudden. So that became a huge issue. We actually have gone in there and already cut the trees because we only had till June 1st to cut those trees. After June 1st, can't cut them until the end of August or the mid-August. So we would have lost all that window. So we already cut the trees. It's all set to go. We had no choice. We haven't awarded the contract, but we had a contract to cut the trees.
I just think it's helpful going
So
forward.
it's just, these kind of things, it's,
Problem you're gonna
there's just a
run into
lot of government
How are you going
stuff
to
we
get a
got to deal with.
contractor to give you a fixed cost for 4 years?
Never.
I mean, that's the issue that we're facing. And when you say vetted, the vetting in my mind is 3 contractors all bid. If one of them had bid $1 million for this project, then I'd question the other 2. But when you get like Central Street, where you get them all at the same window, I don't know why the prices are going up.
I don't know if you saw the bids for this project. The low bid was $2,069,000. The high bid was $8,983,000.
I think some of these contractors are bidding based on future inflation that hasn't happened yet. Right. So, I mean, they could be
Unfortunately,
overinflating their...
That's hard to control that.
Or if they don't need the work, they'll hit a home run. That's how the bidding goes.
Exactly.
And you can't defer the grant pursuit process until you've got permits, et cetera?
Right.
Is that not an option?
We would have to do all the engineering work. We'd have to have the shovel ready, then apply for the grant. We can do it that way. But still, in this situation, this particular project, it still would have took 4 years for the permitting. That's what took the time. We sent in designs to DEP. They didn't like the design. We had to redesign it. Everything from the top of the brook, because the brook is stone, they want stone on top. They want a stone concrete on top. It looks like stone. They want a stone bed. Now, every time we do these projects, it's different. It's a different, different.
Now that we have all the permits, is there any option of letting the grant lapse and reapplying, now that we've got?
Well, that's, if we let it lapse, we will lose the money,
Yeah, don't do that.
obviously.
It's at risk, yeah, don't do that.
Well, I'm trying to understand if this is money that we expect is going to be there, now we'd be able to do it based on real numbers.
So what we tried to do is we tried to push this out and rebid it at the end of summer, but we don't have the time to finish it. Our reimbursements have to be done by May 18th or 24th. That is it. That's the end of it. We have to have our reimbursements done by then.
May of '26?
Yes.
I mean, if you read the article today, I mean, they're saying FEMA's going to be disbanded and all payments coming out is going to be coming out of the president's office. So I'm concerned, like what Scott's saying is like, we shouldn't risk anything with what's going on in Washington DC right now.
Is what you were thinking, Andy, if we reapplied for the grant, we'd get more?
If
what David is saying is,
75% program is still
Yeah.
in place, would
Then
it
it
make
should be
sense to
more than
reapply
what
based on now that you know the actual
Yeah,
numbers?
quite honestly,
Started at a disadvantage,
Yep.
because then they'll say, well, we gave it to you already.
Excuse me. Andy, we can't hear half the conversation. You make sure that you clear it up.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but I couldn't hear the 2 previous speakers.
Okay.
So
So the issue I'm bringing up is,
someone's
You can pull your microphone a little closer.
someone's not on the screen down here on the lower. It's talking, and I can't hear them.
That's Carly.
what I
Okay.
was saying was,
You need to step up to the table and step up to the mic so we can get a clear understanding.
if you,
Hello?
Understood.
if you don't take advantage of the grant, we've always been told if you let it lapse, the next time they look, you don't even start on a level playing field, because they'll look and say, we gave it to you before and you turned it down. This town needs it more than you do. So walking away from 700 is really risky, especially in today's climate.
If we knew FEMA was going to continue as is, but we don't know what the future is, we could give the money back and we could reapply, but we don't know if there's ever going to be funding to reapply either. We just don't know that.
Okay, so now let's talk about the,
Excuse me,
yeah,
excuse me. What are the plans for the source of funding for the deficit? I'm not hearing, what are we going to use for
well, that's
funds to?
That's the next topic of conversation, Jerry. First, I wanted to establish how we got to the cost, how we got to the available funds. Now we'll get to that question.
What's the number?
So
What's the deficit number now? I'm hearing,
it's 72,000 plus a contingency. So what's the ask, Scott?
what's the expected contingency?
10%, so
300.
What's the how much?
300.
So we're looking at a $400,000 unfunded expenditure at this point.
5-4.
He added the 70 again.
He thought you meant 300 additional.
No, 200 plus the 70.
10% would
I'm
bring.
sorry, hold on a minute. So the original estimate, the engineer's estimate of, that had a 10% contingency in it, so,
Well, wait a minute.
but that doesn't do us any good at this point because the
Then we're
bids are
talking
over
about is the
that.
$2,149,000.
Right, exactly.
Does this have a contingency?
No.
What is a customary contingency?
10%.
And
So 10% of $2,149,000 would be about $210,000, which would bring the shortfall, the theoretical shortfall, to about $280,000, give or take.
that's why I said 300.
Understood.
That'll be 300.
What available funds are there, Scott? I'm told that there's some money in a stormwater fund?
We do have a stormwater fund. I don't know the exact number, but I'm going to guess and say it's around $200,000. I don't know the exact. It's right, give or take a few.
Is Zach in the room?
Zach's not, we
No.
have some money, I don't know what that balance is right now.
I don't have
But
that.
there is money that's there.
Like it was on the
Can we find that out?
Yeah, we need to find that out first.
I mean, if we're going to start allocating money, I think we should know what's available.
Is it in an article, Scott, do you know?
Yeah, but it's been a rotating kind of,
Yeah, I can.
it's
see if I
actually
can-
funding from another FEMA project. The other one that went over, we got reimbursement after the fact. So that's where that money came from. So we've been using that for stormwater and brickwork, brookwork for the last, 5 or 6 years.
The Excel document we received has a line item on the bottom. I don't know who put this together.
Who's talking?
Carly.
That's Carly. So there's a document that was circulated earlier, and
that number?
Paul has just
150, that's
left the room. I guess he's going to try to confirm. This document, I think that Carly's referring to, it says Fund 4085, Stormwater Management Fund, 150,000. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I assume Paul's going to try to confirm.
Yeah, I know it's right around there. Could be a little more. So I think ultimately we were looking for about 125,000. I think that will get us in a safe position.
Mr. Lazat?
Yes, Jerry.
Andy?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think we need to get some documentation on some of these numbers. Because all too often, we get in these meetings, and we start going back and forth with these numbers, and then 6 months from now, someone says, well, I told you this. I want to see some documents. Can we get some hard documents and some facts? And these kind of projects have been traditionally going out of control. And we just can't keep, let's get some documents and let's get them presented to the committee members prior to this meeting. Everybody should have these documents in their hand and understand what's going on.
Well, I'm not going to speak for the Move On, but what was circulated with us earlier was the FEMA grant letter and this reconciliation of funding. I don't have the bid, but you're telling us that the current low bid is the $2 million.
What was circulated certainly indicated about just under $100,000 shortfall.
With or without the contingency?
With no contingency.
All right, I'm just kidding.
It didn't specify whether there was a
If that's the
contingency.
case, that must be Zach's document.
Okay, because this talks about a deficit of 124, and I understood when I saw this piece of paper that that was the request.
Right, exactly.
But now we're talking about more than twice that.
No, No, because that stormwater fund comes into play. So that, the
My
storm...
question, again, is what's the source of funding?
Well, Jerry's question of source of funding seems like you're answering it. It's the leftover stormwater.
Yeah, it's
But
a
that does
storm-
not cover any contingency.
It does,
It's
it does
100,
not cover it.
if it's 150,000, if that's, it is right around there. So if it's 150,000 and 125, that gives us $275,000.
Yeah, but even if it isn't, Scotty, if it's just 150, it covers your need for the project unless something comes up where you need more money.
Excuse me.
Al, based on the document, it would appear that they're looking for the 125 of emergency funding and the 150 combined, right?
Bob, it's unclear now that we talk about this, Brant. Bob, you had a question?
Yes, just a comment. I intend to side with the points made by the previous speaker. I think that given the past history with some of the projects where we haven't nailed down the costs and firm costs, I would like to defer this until we get absolute cost, source of funding, all inclusive. Then we can go from there. Right now, we're bouncing the ball around as a contain this, as a contain that. And I will close by saying I am not in favor of approving any monies for this project unless the contingency monies are covered. That's it. All inclusive.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jerry.
hello? I would concur with Mr. DeVita's comments. We need to nail this down and stop coming back for more nickels and dimes. He's right on the money. We've seen much too much of this in the past couple of years. And if I can't tell what FEMA's going to do. Nobody can tell what FEMA's going to do under the current administration. And I think we need to get some concrete, positive responses in documents about what we're going to do. Thank you, Mr. DeVita.
How soon do we have to complete this?
Hold on, let's, Alan. and
June
Brant.
24th, 60
So
days.
How much time do we have?
June 24th.
I'm sorry, what happened?
This year?
Then all these bids, you got 60 days to award the bid.
So wait a minute. June 20, June,
I didn't hear that.
hold on. June 24th of this year is what, the expiration date for the current bids? Okay, so what you're saying is the $2,149,000 is a good bid until June 24th?
Yep.
If it's not accepted by
We
then?
only have 60 days, yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Brant?
so I understand the conversation we're having here. I'll try to be loud to make sure you can pick up my voice. We all received an email from Paul, who stepped out of the room for a minute. And in that email, there's a document in there called Godfrey Brook funding. And the funding document appears to say that there's $150,000 from the Stormwater Management Fund, and there's a request for 125, which would get them to the total. I think it would be a good idea to have Paul come back and talk to us about that document, but that's a document that Zach prepared and sent to Paul, who sent to all of us. So I understand the spirit of what we're talking about, but I think we do have some documentation here. And I think I'd like to have it explained to me, but I think that there is some documentation that we all have in our inboxes. But I want to make sure I understand it, because I think your points are valid, but I don't want to come across as if there's no numbers on a page, because Zach obviously put this funding document together for our benefit.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jerry.
is this a request for a transfer from the
So
emergency fund?
this is a...
Is that the nature?
Well, it's sounding to sound like that, yes. If we were going to approve a funding of the shortfall, it looks like there are only two sources. The Stormwater Management Fund, which I guess is like a sibling or a cousin of the mitigation fund that people feel could be tapped for this purpose. That's $150,000, subject to Paul coming back in the room and confirming that amount. But for the moment, I'm going to assume this document was prepared by Zach and that it's accurate.
It was.
It was, okay. Elizabeth Manani just joined us, and she's confirming that the 150 is an accurate number of what's in the Storm Management Fund. So where we are right now, so we know that the FEMA grant is a solid number. Scott has given us the history of the previous funding authorizations that get us to the $2,077,000. It sounds to me like the only document we don't have in terms of backup that might be relevant is the actual bid that substantiates the $2,149,000 that Scott is talking about. But assuming that is the current low bid and it's good until June 24th, the shortfall, just so everybody understands the math, is $72,000 without a contingency. And there's $150,000 in the stormwater management fund. If we were going to approve anything tonight and it were going to be in excess of the $150,000, I presume that the request would be coming from the FinCom emergency fund.
Are you familiar? We cannot do that.
Still. Can I just go back to?
So I want to make sure everybody's read this 521 email we have, because I don't think everybody has. In that, there is the document that Zach put together.
You cannot take money from the emergency fund for unforeseen expenses.
There's not
This is
contingency
not
in
an
this.
unforeseen emergency.
There's no contingency.
That
in
will
the
not
150.
qualify for the transfer.
That's one of the things that we're debating here, is whether this qualifies under the fund. But, hold on.
Okay.
What's your question,
Two
Dave?
comments. One is, it looks like, I pulled up the schedule, it looks like it doesn't include any owner's contingency. It may only include the general contractor's contingency, which is usually 5% for a high cost. Then, the other question is after this, we're not a governing body, so like, after this, Scott, what is the process of getting this approved? Like, we approve or not approve, right? But what do you have to go after this?
I think you have to approve the emergency funding, if I'm not mistaken,
Is that
right?
the way?
If we're using the emergency account, we can approve it.
Right.
But if we're going for general funding,
Cannot-
and Jerry, we have to have the debate, is this unforeseen, or did Scotty foresee this and just forget to tell us?
But can we agree though first at the 150?
Whatever you want me to say.
Let's put it, everyone understands the exigency issue, Jerry. Let's put that aside for a
But
moment.
can we agree first the 150 does not include contingency?
I can't, you can't
That's
put it
a point.
aside.
Well, Jerry, the point has been made, it's understood, and when we get to a vote on whatever someone proposes, there'll be an opportunity for people to opine on that. But I'm not going to hold up the rest of the discussion for that issue. Everyone understands the issue. Go ahead, David.
So I just want to clarify that everybody understands the 150 does not include our contingency. It may include the general contractor's contingency, but does not include our embedded contingency if we wish to put it on the
You're
project.
saying that because the line item is the low bidder line item.
And that's all they say. There's no thing, in the low bit of the line item probably has contingency on their end, but we're not protecting ourselves for our own contingency.
Okay.
So I just want to make that clear that if we take the, I think it should be 5, but you can use 10. If you take the 10%, then we need the $300,000.
Ideally, that's why we said it was almost 300.
Right, but everybody's working up this 150 number, but it's not 150.
The 150, in my mind, is what we need to do the project if everything is perfect.
Correct. Thank
And we
you.
run into no issues. I mean, that's a scary movie.
Well, no, 72 is what you would need for a shortfall
Oh, okay.
if nothing was wrong. Let's not get confused with the shortfall in the funding sources.
Right, 72, right.
is
72,000, just so everybody has their numbers clear, putting aside the arguments. The funding deficiency, based on the numbers that Scott's given us tonight, is 72,000 without a contingency. That is a wholly separate issue from what funding sources could or could not be available.
So if you take the 19 out, is that how you get in the 72?
Yeah, can I ask a
Forget
clarification?
about the 19.
No, I'm just trying to get the 150 to 72, that's all.
Hold on. Don't forget about the 150. That's the amount of money that's in the stormwater fund.
What are the two numbers you're comparing?
So,
items.
hold on. Everybody, stop, please. Listen. I'm going to go through the history one more time. The funding sources were 733 originally from FEMA. Add to that, if you're penciling this out, 244 was a second funding approval from town meeting. That brings you to 977. That was based on the original projected bid from 2019 or 2020. Then there was an additional town meeting appropriation of $1,000,001. That brings you to $2,077,000 for available funds. Now put that in one bucket. Now, we're told by Scott tonight that the current low bid that's good until whatever it is, June 24th, is $2,149,000. Forget about the piece of paper that says $2,142,000 and $19,000 for the engineer. Ignore that. What he's telling us is funding need at the moment is $2,149,000. Funding sources previously granted by FEMA or previously approved by town meeting is $2,077,000.
So
That differential is $72,000.
so not this.
$72,000 is your shortfall without contingency. That's what you need. What you've got is a whole different conversation. What you've got is the 150 in the stormwater fund, and if people decided it satisfied the conditions, the FinCom fund. Yes.
So I'm going to go by, if Zach did this schedule, right, and if Zach knows the appropriations, his appropriation is $2,037,000. So I'm just want to make sure that we're comfortable with the extra $40,000. I don't know where that's coming from. And Zach, and someone would have to opine on that.
630 last year, so in the year, but he would know what the balance.
Scott, Paul, who prepared this chart?
Yeah,
Well, the
I never
problem,
saw it.
one of the issues is that David just points out that this says total funding available is $2,037,000. The numbers that you just gave us add up to $2,077,000. That's a $40,000 delta. Zach's not here.
Well, I think that's because of that stormwater, because we don't know, I don't know exactly what that is. Zach would know that, so.
We just, like, we just need better information. Just
Well, the balance in the money, that difference, I just want to show it to you. So it's in the red book. This is where they have these other things. So these are capital project funds. And if you look here, here's the stormwater phase, whatever. Now, this is the end of the last fiscal year, so a year ago. The balance was
321,
I
94,808?
think it's the third one, right?
No, because this is an empty line item, right? See,
Yes,
this
it
is
is.
empty. Nothing there. This is, can I write on this?
Hold on, go straight across. Use the piece of paper, just go straight.
Sorry, everyone.
It's 222,000.
I think,
No, but he was taking from the stormwater, not, this is the wells. These are Godfrey Brook wells, that's a different project.
Stormwater is 222,000, but that was as we.
I know, I'm just told.
She told us it's 150,000.
That's what,
Yeah, but that's where it's coming from. So Zach checked that before he put those
Yes.
numbers.
But that's not what I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about is up here.
Okay.
right, I do not know, Zach prepared that document, and I assumed that he knew, I certainly don't know what the finances are in the Godfrey Brook. He would know that better than me, I didn't question it. So I don't know why there's a $40,000 difference in the available funding between what you're calculating and what Zach is calculating, but
Mr. Chairman,
Jerry?
in light of the ongoing discussions and the continued misunderstanding of what the numbers are, I think we should defer this until you have another meeting. This can, we need to get these numbers boiled down in writing and put in the minutes of the FinCom. So we don't come back 6 months from now and have a discrepancy that we haven't been able to reconcile.
Okay, is that a motion, Jerry?
I don't have a source of, yes.
Okay, so Jerry is making a motion that we defer consideration of this funding request.
Till when?
Until we get
We don't have
Till we get the numbers right. We got a $40,000, $150,000, a contingency that we don't know how we're going to fund. How much more do we not know before?
I'm more worried that Scotty,
June.
if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Scotty, if we put it out to bid, the bid's going up or down?
Up.
That's my biggest worry.
I'm not worried about we still haven't figured out what the contingency is. We're going to get hit with the contingency. Trust me. The guy who put the bid together is planning on
But if
coming
we
back
don't
with a
move by June
contingency.
26th, the bids turn into pumpkins.
24th.
Mr. Chairman, the document that we have from the finance director, who's pretty reliable on matters like this, does cover the contingency. It does, to cover the contingency, is looking for us to come up with $125,000 from the emergency fund, but that's how he would cover the contingency. There is the matter of the $40,000 from the verbal numbers that Scott walked us through versus the piece of paper that we have from Zach. I look at this and say, well, $40,000 is real money, but I also understand that, like, we would lose all of our grant, if we don't move forward with this reasonably soon. So, you look at this and say, like, I think that there's a high probability Zach is right.
I would just,
That's what I was just going to say, was, I feel pretty comfortable that Zach prepared the document. Nobody changed it. I reviewed it, and I sent it to Paul to send to you guys.
All right, so hold on. I'm going to stop on procedure for a moment. Jerry made a motion. Is there a second to the motion before we continue discussion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so Bob has seconded the motion. All right, I'll allow the discussion to resume. So, Al, are you asking to modify the motion, or what?
Yes.
Okay.
Because to say we're not going to move forward until we have all the information, I'm more worried that in 13 days, the bids turn into pumpkins. If they go up 5%, it's $100,000.
You called him. All right, excuse me, I'm going to get some answers.
That's my biggest worry, Andy, is that...
All right, hold on, guys. If Zach's going to be saying anything, I'd like to hear what he's saying. So
Let's get a connection.
once you guys speak to him.
Establish the call, but bring the phone back in.
Yeah, please.
He can call into this, can't he?
Al, I think you are establishing a very dangerous precedent to move forward with a project of this nature without nailing down all the costs documented and flying ahead without adding a contingency is bad business. I understand all the negatives, but we've run into problems before, and there isn't a project in this town that I'm aware of in the last 25 years that hasn't gone over budget. So once they get started, there's going to be extras.
So
I had my hand up.
Let me finish.
Go ahead, Bob.
To go down this road, I think we're asking for trouble.
And Bobby, I'm not saying...
Let's put it out for bid again, and we've got a history. We ran into a problem with the parks. I don't want a repeat of that. So my vote is to defer this, and if we have to go out for bid again, we need to learn our lesson here. We got 5 years here that we haven't done anything on this project. I mean, it just doesn't seem right.
Okay,
Do we really need the project? That's the other question now. If we do it out of 5 years, do we really need it?
That's a fair question. I'm going to let Brant speak and then let Al respond. Go ahead, Brant.
I think I would just say, Bob, I agree with the macro observations. The thing that I just wanted to say for everybody's benefit and anybody who's watching on television is the discrepancy we have here is between the document that Zach, the finance director, prepared for us to review and verbal numbers that were aired in this meeting not adding up to within $40,000.
Zach, can you go on mute?
We're not in a position of having no documentation on the project. We just have verbal numbers that aren't matching the documentation we have.
So quickly, what I just spoke about, and he can confirm it, the $125,000 gets us to the point we can sign the contract. We have the money to cover the project. The contingency is going to get covered by the stormwater fund. He did say there's 280 in there, but he put it in as 150. I'm unsure why. He can explain that. So, if you want to let him explain.
We're going to do this in order. Al, you wanted
And
to...
Bobby, my point was not that I'm against holding off. I'm against holding off 14 days. I think this is important enough that the good Dr. Christofoli should move and get us all the information and have a meeting the beginning of next week.
Okay, so there's three things that could happen here. We could act on this tonight. We could reschedule, not that I'm jumping up and down for joy about a second meeting in June, but we could reschedule this to next week with a list of deliverables. or it gets deferred indefinitely. Any of those things can happen, but we have Zach on the phone right now. He's at some event, but I want to give people an opportunity to ask him any questions they want to ask.
Yeah, really quickly, please. My kid's about to come up.
He's at a baseball game. Is there anybody that wants to ask a question of Zach that he can answer from the phone tonight? And Bill hasn't spoken yet. Go ahead, Bill.
Is it possible that this $40,000 represents money already spent? It was mentioned that you were charging things against this fund.
Yes. Your sheet, Zach, says that there's $2,037,000 of funding. Scott just ran through the numbers with us. He came up with $2,077,000, which is $40,000 higher. Bill is asking, is that money that's already been spent, or is that some other error?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Okay.
The numbers I put together is accurate. I stand behind it. I had Liz, my nanny, the town engineer, with me at the time.
She is here.
Okay, so basically, $125,000 would allow us to sign the contract. We know we don't like going in without contingency, so we suggested using our stormwater account. I wrote $150 just because I don't think we need more than that. There's like $280 in the account.
So there's $2,149,000 is what Scott is saying is the current bid that's effective until June 24th or whatever it is. If you're holding $2,037,000, then the shortfall is $117 or so, or $112,000 before contingency. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, it's right there. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, that's my understanding.
David, go ahead.
Does any of this money that we're using need to be backfilled? Like the stormwater management fund, do we need to backfill that and refund that account?
David asked if we deplete the stormwater fund, is that going to need to be replenished?
Yes is the answer, yes.
The answer is yes.
We're just like short-terming a $250,000 hit.
That's right.
That's not ideal. So we have a $250 problem no matter what.
Someday.
The amount doesn't have to be replenished on all these things.
What's that?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead, Jerry.
If it's even used.
If it's even used.
Go ahead, Jerry.
What is the date? What is the date on the current lowest bid that we have? When did we receive that bid?
April
24th.
I've heard November of 2019.
I think Elizabeth and Scott just said April 24th of this year is when they received the bid that we're speaking about right now. Is that correct? They're shaking their heads yes.
Okay. So there's.
I think Zach's good.
Wait, let's stick with Zach for the moment because he's at a baseball game. Does anybody else have a question for Zach?
I have a question with Zach. Number one is the only funding this committee has available to it is the emergency fund. And I do not believe this kind of expenditure is an unforeseen and qualifies for a transfer from our emergency fund.
I don't think you have to, Zach, but do you want to opine on the use of the Finance Committee fund?
Yeah, all right, sure. Yeah, I was going to say, was that a question? So, this is your jurisdiction. It is for your body to determine if it's unforeseen and emergency in nature. Those are the two criteria. Your body makes that determination. If you do, you vote in the affirmative, you get the transfer. If you don't, you don't. Solely your discretion of the board.
Okay. I'm going to let Zach go if it's okay with everyone else. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Zach.
Zach.
Great. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
And I have to disagree that realistically, unless somebody tells me that, Scotty, you knew about this, you knew it was coming, and you decided that you were just going to hide it and not tell us till 6 days before, then it's unforeseen.
Do we have to vote on the motion?
We are still in discussion. I'm going to give Paul a chance in 1 second on the motion by Jerry to defer that was seconded by Bob. Go ahead, Paul.
So the thought is, I think by the time they actually got the bid, it was the warrant for the town meeting was already signed and approved. So at that point, they couldn't put it as an article on the warrant.
If it cannot go on a town meeting warrant, then it falls under the unforeseen or emergency effect, because you need to get going on it, because you're going to expire on the grant date. So if the committee decides, that's why it was not, by the time they actually got the bid, it was unforeseen that it was going to come in that much higher than what was previously bid.
So the bid came in after town meeting?
He said after the warrant was closed.
But they could have presented that additional information during town meeting with the new bid. And I'm assuming they did not.
How could we
How
have
do we
gotten
do
on
that?
the warrant?
But there was no,
How could
but
you
there
have
was no
discussion on a
article.
non-warrant
Right.
article?
Yeah. There was no
Would have been
article.
out of order.
There was no article. There was a Godfrey Brook funding article.
No, that was Wally's-
But
that's the group behind Wally's house.
That was wholly unrelated. This particular issue was not a subject of an article in May, Jerry.
So where are we getting the funding?
I would say the emergency account. I'm dead scared that you
Where are
send
we
this
getting
up
the
to
fund? Where are we getting the funding for the whole project? Where do we get the funding for the whole project?
Oh, well, that was the earlier discussion tonight, that was the summation of the FEMA grant from 2019, the supplement from town meeting in 2021, and the supplement from town meeting in 2024. Those three buckets of money aggregate the $2,077,000 that is currently available. So that's the question. That's the question of the
We haven't
funds.
presented all the we haven't presented all the facts to town meeting. That's a major problem if you haven't told town meeting what the project cost is going
This
to
has
be.
already been approved by town meeting.
Town meeting's approved this project 3 times.
Twice.
Oh, twice?
Twice.
I don't care if it requires 10 times to get it done correctly, but
Finance Committee has the jurisdiction to make the adjustment in the cost if it's an unforeseen or emergency or unforeseen.
So there's really two questions in my mind. One, excuse me, guys,
You have 125.
excuse me. There's two questions in my mind. One is whether there's particular pieces of factual information that people feel that they need to have. If that was the case, then I think the logical result would be to get that information and to have another meeting a week from now. If people don't like the way this whole thing has been teed up, or don't like the prospect of the Finance Committee emergency fund funding it, then that's a separate matter that we might as well just vote on up and down tonight. That's not an issue of getting more information and having a meeting a week from now. So people need to be clear as to what their concern is and what we're trying to achieve.
one other comment. I think you need to, what the previous speaker, Mr. DeVita talked about, about getting this firmly documented, what we're going to spend needs to happen, and that's a big responsibility on the part of this committee to make sure that happens. I think I would be much more comfortable, even if we have to rebid the project, if we know exactly what it's going to be with all these contingencies and all these discrepancies, and get it locked down.
Jerry,
I
don't know if you're having the audio problem still, but we just heard Zach say he stood by the numbers that we got on 521. That lays this out perfectly.
That he sent.
That from Zach. He presented the numbers and he said he stood by the numbers. So I understand your point conceptually, except
we're still short.
No, we're
two different issues.
Yeah, we're short, but I mean, people were raising, and I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just trying to make sure everyone's got the common set of facts. People have raised concerns about not having enough information. Unless you want to actually read the bid that's been submitted, what we've got here tonight is all the information that Zach just told us are good numbers that result in the deficit that they're looking for. So if there's a particular piece of information or backup that people don't have that they would like to see, then tell me what that is. But Zach is telling us that the $2,037,000 in funding is the summation of the FEMA grant and the 2 prior town meetings, and he says those are solid numbers. And Scott tells us there's a $7,000 differential on the low bid, which brings you to the differential, the shortfall of $112,000 without taking into account a contingency. So like I said, unless you're going to read the bid, those are the numbers. And I don't think those numbers are going to change a week from now.
It probably will if you rebid.
I have a question. If the accepted bid is 200, where's my notes here? 240, 2149.
2149.
What are the last 3 bids? Yeah, what are they, in the hundreds, the high 900s? What are they? The last 3 numbers.
555.
The last 3.
2149 what?
2149
2149555.
555.
But what was the bid before that?
Oh, wait a minute, Bob, are you asking?
No.
Excuse me,
No.
excuse me.
That's not
Bob, are you asking what the second and third bids were, or are you asking for the exact dollar amount of the bid?
I'm asking what the final bid is that Scott Christofouli wants us to approve.
Okay.
It's $2,149,555.
Okay, Elizabeth just stepped
Yeah,
out
it's
of it.
actually, it's a little lower than that. It's a couple thousand lower than that. She'll get the exact number. That's rounded up, so.
Yeah, see, this is crazy. To be going back and forth on something like this, something that we've had in hand since April 24th, to me, is unacceptable. We ought to have every number nailed down with percentages and everything else. I just don't feel comfortable.
Can I ask why we're not
really
using
don't.
what the finance director provided and produced,
And nailed down.
that he sent to us, that did not come from Scott or Elizabeth? Zach sent it to us on 5/21.
Well,
Harley's right. That's the nature of our problem. We're diverting from the numbers that Zach just stood behind. And we keep doing that, and then we say we can't go forward. But if we use the numbers that Zach stood behind, there's no confusion. straightforward issue.
I agree. It would have been nice if everybody is singing from the same sheet of paper. I don't know why we're all talking about different numbers.
The differences are
They're not
small.
big numbers.
I always lean on the finance guy. I am a finance guy by trade, so I think, well, he's the numbers guy.
Zach has a history of providing good numbers.
The 214.
I was questioning his numbers is beyond me.
So the 214955 is
Why don't we
a
have
couple
the-
thousand
why don't we
less.
have the
She's going to get you the
document?
exact number. I don't have the exact number because it was
Why
a
don't we have
quantity
the
change.
document?
But
You had the documents in the 521 email. There's
I
5
thought we got
documents.
those at the end of May. Or
521. Oh, there's 5 documents attached to
Yeah,
that.
there was a whole bunch.
I think the concern is the contract, sorry. I mean, I think that's the flip side. I think that's what they're talking about. Can we just vote on the, please?
Well, we're going to wait for Elizabeth or no?
yeah, she's going to give you the.
Just left the room. I'm glad we didn't have the school building committee tonight.
And what is the normal percentage for a contingency? Isn't it 20%? 10%?
We'd like to have 10.
And Bobby.
You like
That's
to have
another-
some, but five is
No,
also,
but if we had our choice on a clean sheet of paper,
absolutely.
we'd start with 10.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's another
All right,
200,000.
hold on. You know what? Brant's admonition earlier that we should rely on Zach's numbers is being borne out here.
Zach has more.
Well, you guys shouldn't be coming in here guessing. Just give me
Oh, I didn't know
the
Zach was
exact
going to be here.
So,
Left me here by myself, you know?
So I am looking at the bid form document that Elizabeth just gave me. The low bid is, everybody write this down, $2,142,805, which matches exactly what's in Zach's document that has been circulated to all of us.
Should we clap?
So there are six.
Where did these other numbers come from?
There are six.
Where did these other numbers come from?
Bob, you have an email with that document. Bob, you have an email with that document from 521. You have that in writing from 521, Bob.
Okay, so apparently the bid is in your emails. It's probably a 50-page bid document, is my guess.
There was 5 different documents.
There were 5 different documents. I brought the ones that were the least paper.
An email from 521.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That May document.
The highway surveyor comes in and gives us a number. I accept the number that Scotty gives us. but it isn't the number that Zach gives us.
Okay, so
which is the-
you should have a one-page, you know what we're going to do? It's
called the funding.
We're all going to go back to Zach's sheet.
$7,000. I mean,
Zach
we're
sheet.
talking millions.
We're going to go back to Zach's sheet, which everyone has, because I have it and I printed it, and it didn't just come to me. Once again, Zach is showing total funding of $2,037,000, and Zach says that's a good number. The low bid,
$2,037,000.
2037. I'm leaving off the dollars and the pennies. 2037. That's the funding availability. That's locked in. The low bid, as confirmed by this sheet of paper I'm looking at right now, is $2,142,805. Zach's got a line item additional for engineer. Since Zach's been right about everything else, I'm going to assume this is a good number of $19,000. So total request, putting aside contingencies, is $2,161,805. Subtract from that total funding availability of everyone doing the math at home, $2,037,042.90. That leaves you with a deficit before contingency of $124,762.10. Okay? Those are the numbers that by all indications appear to be accurate and supportable. The deficit is $124,762 without a contingency. The Stormwater Management Fund availability from Fund 4085 is $150,000. Okay, so after we did that big round robin, I think where we came out is that Zach's numbers are good numbers, and everybody now has the numbers, which Zach circulated earlier. Okay, so hopefully we don't have to talk about the numbers anymore.
Fundamental question.
Go ahead, Al.
If we voted to give you $125,000 out of the emergency fund, I know that leaves zero contingency. You can go forward, sign the contract, and not let the bids be rebid and go up.
That is correct.
If you ran into a problem, could you wait till October to fund that problem?
What I think we would do is use the stormwater fund. But yes, the answer is yes.
We can't say take the money out of the stormwater fund. Town meeting has to.
Well,
No.
I think we
No.
consider the Godfrey Brook as stormwater.
No,
Okay, Godfrey Brook comes under it?
It's all part of it.
Yes.
Zach, is that?
Yeah, so if we couldn't wait till, if a cost came up that had to be dealt with before October, then we would start using the 150
Okay.
plus. And then we would look to recoup that
So
cost
we
at
could
town
take the
meeting.
125 out of our emergency fund, keep the project going, keep you from rebidding it.
Yes.
Because my gut tells me bids aren't going down. If you rebid a $2 million project, even if it goes up 5%, that's another $100,000. And then we'll deal with any contingency as it comes up, or wait till the town meeting to fund it.
If we had the 125, we would have already signed the bid. We're very comfortable with that we have enough to cover, with the 125, we have enough to cover the bid, and we feel comfortable with our own contingency if something comes up, and absolutely would plan
So
on
you could
going.
use the Godfrey Brook money and then replenish the Godfrey Brook money.
The
at
stormwater.
Stormwater at the fall town meeting,
Absolutely,
without any penalties or,
correct.
Carly.
Can I just ask a process question off that?
Carly first, Jerry, go ahead.
If that's the case, and if they have jurisdiction,
Wait a minute, Jerry, Carly is speaking, and then you'll have an opportunity. Go ahead,
if
Carly.
they have jurisdiction over the stormwater fund today, why can't they use that versus why do we have to grant emergency fund? I just want to understand the difference.
Well,
Because the emergency fund goes away in 10 days.
Yes.
And the stormwater doesn't. If you spend the stormwater money now,
Then we
you have to go back to town meeting.
Then we literally have no contingency.
Okay, so it has to, the order has to be, I just want to clarify.
Yeah, just
The order has
Carly,
to be-
normally I'd get scared that we're using up our entire emergency fund, but it's 10 days. It's 10 days before our emergency fund gets replenished.
Got it. But that's the order of operations that is the most prudent way to do it. It would be emergency fund, and then to Elizabeth's point, if for
Then
some
the
reason.
contingency is still in place if they need it under the Godfrey Brook stormwater money.
Then that
If you
gets.
do it the other way around, that money's gone.
Understood. Thank you.
but
Sorry to
it gets
interrupt.
replenished on July 1st.
No, our money, if we didn't spend our 125, and we spent the stormwater money, well, the stormwater money's gone. That doesn't get replenished. If we spend our 125, we have 10 days that we're broke, and it gets replenished on the 11th day.
Yeah.
If you-
That's why I think the
if-
most prudent thing is to spend the
right.
emergency fund.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Did I not understand Zach to say that if we spend the stormwater money of 150, are we not required to replace that?
We're not
Where are
required.
we going to?
My understanding
where we
is, we don't need to replenish it now because there's no project. Eventually, Scotty's going to come up with a new Godfrey Brook or a new stormwater management, and we'll have to add money.
Start with a smaller balance.
It
Start with a
doesn't,
smaller amount.
yeah, it doesn't legally need to be replenished, but as I understand it, there's some stormwater project in the future
Well,
coming.
our regular compliance, we have enough in there, and that's why he's saying 150, because the other stuff is for, the other amount of money is for our compliance. No matter what, whether we use that money for this project or not, we will need more money for stormwater. It's inevitable, and that's probably going to happen in the fall.
Every year.
Can we move the motion?
Okay.
So that's a whole nother
That's called
conversation.
a motion to call the question, which I'm going to adopt. Okay. So there's a motion by Jerry to defer this to a date unspecified, and it's seconded by Bob. No further discussion. We're going to take a roll call on that motion. David?
No.
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 Lauren?
Nope.
Mike?
No.
Bob?
I'm in favor.
And Jerry? In favor.
I'm in favor.
So, how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 8-2, the motion, or 2-8, the motion to defer is defeated. Is there another motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, so wait a minute, let's be
Well, you
clear.
gotta go deeper, Lauren.
We have to specify what it is we're authorizing. Lauren.
$125,000 transfer from the Emergency Finance Committee fund.
And I think if that's going to be the motion, I think the motion has to be a motion to authorize the transfer of the $125,000 from the Finance Committee fund, and to the extent that that is inadequate for the project, to authorize the transfer from the stormwater, doesn't it?
But do we have to
No.
vote on, we don't have to vote on stormwater.
No,
That's up to Scott.
already-
Are we certain about that?
What's the balance of it?
100%.
Yeah, the Godfrey Brook's part of our stormwater system, yes, absolutely.
The balance of the Finance Committee fund, I assume we haven't spent anything on it.
I don't remember spending.
125, we haven't spent.
Paul has confirmed the balance is $125,000. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, Lauren, I just want to have clarity.
Motion to approve the request for $125,000 to come from the FinCom Emergency Fund, because as we discussed in the meeting tonight, it qualifies as unforeseen and emergency in nature, the end.
Okay, so that's the motion by Lauren to
Second.
have these funds transferred. Second by Al.
I'll leave it to Mike.
Seconded by
No,
Mike.
second by Mike.
I'm sorry. Seconded by Mike Nicholson. I think we've discussed this to death. Roll call, David.
Yes.
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 Lauren.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes, we didn't have any discussion, so I'm going to vote against it, and the reason for my vote against it is that this alleged problem has existed since April 24th. Here it is, almost June 24th. If it's an emergency, why did it take 60 days, almost 60 days, to bring it before this committee? I am deeply opposed to this action at this point.
Jerry?
I say no. I concur with Mr. DeVita's comments, and I actually think this does not qualify, and I think we're going to have to get a second ruling, a second opinion from town council as to whether this is actually an emergency that qualifies for a transfer from our emergency fund. If it was an emergency, it would be a boiler that's leaking or something that's blown up that requires immediate action. Mr. DeVita, like, it doesn't take 60 days to address the emergency. This doesn't qualify as an emergency.
And you'll recall that you were notified a while ago but didn't read the documents. I'm just saying it. We keep going back to this. This was all notified a long time ago, guys.
Okay, so the motion's been proved 8-2. I think this is probably where we need to end up, Scotty, although I got to say this whole issue of how we get to the reimbursement and how it's so different from what we got approved for, I ask you guys to see what we can do to avoid that in the future, because that costs us several $100,000. And I understand it was multi-years of permitting and all that, but something seems wrong with the system if they're approving us for a 75% reimbursement and we end up at 40%.
It's time. It's the time it takes to get to this point. It's-
The permitting, in all sincerity, the Army Corps permitting, which was the last one that we received, we didn't even think we were going to need the Army Corps permitting, but people at DEP or the Army Corps decided that they wanted to interpret something a little bit differently than they had before based on this many years has gone by. It's different, you know. So the permitting took a great deal longer than anticipated. And based on the timing, it just went up that much more.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm going to shut it off?
I'm going to shut it off.
You voted.
All right, I'll tell you what the Hoboken.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Next time, just
Thank you
use
for
X
coming,
numbers.
not thank you for bringing this problem.
Use X numbers.
7,000. It was off by 7,000. It's my first job. GZA. I used to work for GZA.
I guess we're taking a 60-second hiatus because Al is out in the hallway. I'm going to give him 60 seconds, then I'm going to have you grab him.
No, you shut me off. Someone else will do it.
While we're waiting, I'll tell
Get
you.
his son to grab him.
While we're waiting, I'll tell you guys, if you see me fumbling for any important documents that I can't find, at the conclusion of town meeting, I had a pile of documents on my desk, and I was talking to Ashley, and then a few minutes later, there's no pile. And so I'm looking around. Al's talking to a couple of people, so then I went over to Al, and I said, "You see my papers?" He says, "Oh, yeah, I threw them away." I said, "What?" And he said, "Well, they, that's okay. I don't care if I'm on TV. They, whoever they are, were getting mad at us because we were leaving papers behind. No, is there anything you need here, Andy? It was walk across the room in the trash can.
Yeah, that's for the minute.
I will say, your presentation is on the Milford Finance Committee site on Facebook, by the way, so
We put it there, so
I would say refer to that if you're looking for anything.
yes.
And a plug for our Facebook site that.
Okay, the reason we had to wait for Al is because Al is in charge of nominations. I was just bad-mouthing you in your absence about when you threw my documents away at town meeting.
Oh, I was cleaning up.
I'm going to suspend normal business so that Al can attend to nomination issues.
Okay, this is the time of year that we always go through, and we have several positions that we need to vote on. So we'll start with chairman. We have one nomination already for Andy Lazat. Do I hear any other names that you want to put forward as chairman? Not hearing anything? I'll enter Andy Lazat. For vice chair, we have one name, Al Correa, that's been nominated. Do I hear anybody else who wants to be vice chair? Please, please. Okay, then it's Al Correa. Now, for exec committee, 2 positions are there by statute, which is chair and vice chair, so whoever we vote for chair and vice chair will serve on the exec committee. But there's 3 other spots. I have Lauren Wilton nominated. Any other names?
I'll nominate Bill.
Okay, Bill Farrell. We got Chris George said he'd put his name in the hat, but I don't think he qualified. So we have Lauren and Bill.
I'll nominate Mike Nicholson.
Mike.
All right,
Mike, you accept?
yes.
Okay. Lauren, I assume you accept because you told me you would.
Yes.
I vote to approve the slate of offices that you just
Do you want to give
listed.
an opportunity for anybody else to?
Well, Bobby, just hold off 30 seconds on that.
Sure.
Anybody else want to add their name to any position? Okay, Bobby, thanks. Go ahead.
Yep, no, I just want to make a motion that we approve the slate of offices that you just listed, as Mr. Lazat as chairman, Mr. Cabrera as vice chairman, Lauren, Bill, and Mike Nicholson as members of the exec committee. Do I have a second?
I got you, Bob.
Carly is seconding it. So, hearing no other discussion, roll call.
Yes.
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 Lauren,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Dr. DeVita,
Yes.
Jerry.
Go on.
Okay, we'll go to 7-2 with 1 abstention. This concludes the business of the nominating committee. I turn the meeting back to our chairman.
Okay. Is there anything else that people want to raise for purposes of tonight's meeting? We're not going to have any discussions of new matters, but if anyone wanted to raise any issues for future meetings, I'll give anyone an opportunity.
I do, Mr. Chairman, I would, and it pertains to the school building committee coming in.
Yes.
If they have any documentation that they plan to deliver at the meeting, please send it to us as much in advance as possible.
I will ask Jonathan to do that.
Bobby, the only thing scheduled is the approval to get us on the program. I don't know that there'll be any documents before that, but Jonathan will share, he already told me he would share anything he gets.
And Zach and Paul have been doing a little bit of modeling on potential costs, and we will get that circulated before the next meeting.
There is a meeting next week with the school building administration to go through the formal signing, which will let us kick off the feasibility study. And that's where we get the real numbers and the real plan.
David?
So I have one. So I believe the July 4th fireworks are going to happen this year again, not on the 4th, but they're going to happen. And through the Friends of July 4th Facebook page, I guess they didn't secure enough funds to have a parade, which I think is very unfortunate, because I think parade and fireworks basically go hand in hand. So I'd like to explore the opportunity of including the July 4th parade when the fireworks happen through the town. And I don't know if we can explore those opportunities in the next fiscal year's budget, which would be the following year. So I just think it's unfortunate that I think the parade is, we have a Christmas parade, why can't we have a town July 4th parade, so that's my thought.
Anyone else?
I'd like to include in the next meeting a report on the status of the bus, the MWRTA LMNOP bus.
I will make sure that gets added. Who is that? Is that under Scott's jurisdiction, or
I
is
think
that?
it's under Scotty.
All right, I'll check.
I'm not against it, it's a lot of money we spend.
Yeah.
And it's been years since we've talked about it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so unless something unexpected happens, our next full Finance Committee meeting will probably be September, which is already starting to fill up on the agenda, but, okay, our last motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Brant,
Second.
seconded by Bill. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Lauren,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
It looks like Bob and Jerry have departed, so they would abstain, Leanne. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
One thing I think we should do is recognize our visitor.
Okay, so, yeah, we're formally adjourned, but Nick Holmes is in the audience tonight, and he has been recommended to be a candidate for the Finance Committee, and I believe that the Select Board will be considering that later this month. So, okay, thank you all.